right, so today we
Kevon,
have
like,
Kevon Saber from Legacy Outcomes, and I'm really excited to have you because you and I work on parallel routes, or so you and Conscious Wealth work on parallel routes. We're helping people exit companies, but making sure they do it in an intentional way. And one of the things, well, I thought I'd start with a quote because questions are really important to you. So I thought I'd start with a quote to ground us, and let's see if you know, maybe you know this one. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given to you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything, live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. Do you know who said that?
two guesses.
Yeah.
I know it's not Yoda, but it does sound Yoda-ish. My real guess is Thich Nhat Hanh.
Oh, no. It's that's a good one. It's Rilke. And so Rilke wrote that in the letters to a young poet. And so this young poet started writing him, and they had these letters going back and forth. It's a great book, and it's about living with uncertainty. And I can't think of anything more uncertain than the moment you decide, I think I'm going to sell this business. And I can't think of a place where there's so many questions and not necessarily answers. And so that's where I wanted to start with you and talk about what comes up when selling a business and why is it so difficult?
There's so many ways, there's so many angles into that question, but it's a great beginning question because it helps business owners to see things from a bird's eye view.
Yeah.
The latter question is actually easier, so we'll start with that one, and I think it's a good springboard to the first one. So why is it so difficult? There's three big ingredients that make the dish very hard to complete and to complete in a way that anyone wants to eat it, right? The first one, and this is the hardest for business owners to hear, and it really relates to your quote, it's assumptions, right? Business owners have a lot of assumptions, they have a lot of preconceived notions that are not market tested, market validated. They're convenient to hold, but as my dad taught me when I was 7 years old, assumptions make an ass out of you and me, or in the case of the business owners, out of the business owner and everybody involved with them.
Yeah.
Their team, in some cases, their family. The second big contributor is the buyers have all kinds of tricks and traps to buy businesses below fair market value. Well, if a business owner is selling a business for the first time, they don't know those hundreds of techniques that buyers use to ultimately outmaneuver these sellers. And then the third reason is, and this applies less for a business that's north of 200 million in enterprise value. But Brandon, you and I know that's a very small number of businesses, right? For most businesses that are south of that, they're going to have representation that isn't really qualified to help them sell their business. These are, in many cases, brokers who used to sell houses or used to sell cars. And the playbook for selling a house or a car has nothing to do with the playbook for selling a 20, a 50, or an $80 million business. So when those three things come together, the assumptions, the buyer's expertise relative to the sellers, and the low quality of representation out there for among the brokers and the M&A firms in general, there are a few exceptions, fortunately, it can become a mess really quickly.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk about the assumptions first. And so what I think I hear you saying when you talk about assumptions is somebody's going to sell, I'm going to sell my business and I think it's worth something, but I haven't battle tested that. And I've been operating off my gut forever, and my gut has served me well, but my gut has been helping me run a business, not necessarily sell it. So how does your firm and how do you approach, what kind of questions are you asking and what types of analysis are you doing to make sure that you can test those assumptions?
Well, you're making me think of one of the major takeaways of Malcolm Gladwell's book, and that was, the takeaway was that when people are making assumptions or hunches or going by their gut in an area that they have a lot of experience, such as that business owner running their business, it tends to be a great predictor. Right? It's when you try to operate by your gut in a new terrain that your gut becomes far less useful or reliable as a source of wisdom. So I'm glad you made that differentiation, and I wanted to go a little deeper on it. The first thing I'd say is that those assumptions are all reasonable, they're all logical, and they all have some source of truth. But the problem is it's not enough for them to be part true. It's not enough for your water to be part water, right? Your water has a little arsenic, it's deadly. Mm-hmm. And each of the common assumptions are just as deadly. You mentioned valuation. One of the big assumptions there is that I can just get a quick, superficial valuation. I can go off of something I heard at a conference 2 years ago, or talk to my brother-in-law who sold a business recently. The reality is, in the same way that a skilled baseball coach can look at the difference between a curveball and a fastball and describe their nuances, there's a huge valuation range inside of the same industry for the same kind of business with the same level of revenue and the same level of EBITDA, right? Mm-hmm. For example, to what extent is the revenue reoccurring? To what extent is there a strong management team in place? To what extent are there documented, stable, repeatable systems and processes? To what extent is that market growing, mm-hmm. Versus contracting? In every one of those cases, and there's 20 others that we could cover today, that's going to cause the valuation to be a little higher or a little lower. So just saying 3 times or 7 times EBITDA is really a lazy way to go about determining your valuation. It's much better to take a thorough approach that ultimately enables you to have something that is defensible, mm-hmm. when the buyer's pushing back, enables you to have alignment with whoever's selling the business, and ultimately gives you clarity for what you're going to do with those proceeds with your RIA or wealth manager once the transaction's over.
Yeah.
We can spend more time on the assumptions if you want to, but I wanted to cover the valuation one that you brought up.
No, I think that's a really important one. And so the first step is the first step when the idea says, hey, now's the time to leave. Now's the time to exit. Is the first step getting a valuation then?
I think it's the second step.
Okay.
So the first step is really getting clear on what matters to you in the sale.
More questions.
Yeah, there are 15 different objectives, right?
Yeah.
That a business owner can have.
Yeah.
Or can have. Every objective might not apply to every person.